And you can't let yourself live in fear. I mean,
Mm-mm.
everything that you do comes with a risk or a reward and or a
Mm-hmm.
reward. It can be both. And putting yourself out there, yes, there's risk, but it's also reminding yourself to be in the present and enjoy
Mm-hmm.
what you have right now
Mm-hmm.
because like I'm in beginning stages of a relationship and I have that fear that runs through my head of like, but what if it ends? And it's like I have to cut my thoughts off and be like, no, you're
Mm-hmm.
happy right now. Let yourself be happy. Like breathe. Be there. Be here in this moment right now. Stop worrying about all the what ifs that could happen because you're going to drive yourself mad doing so.
Hey Jess, welcome to the Breakups podcast. I am so excited to have you here today. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Hannah. I'm happy to be here and do a little reversals. You were on my podcast not too long ago.
Totally. That was so cool. I feel like we had such a great conversation. And also at the end, I'm like, okay, I have to get to know Jess more. She needs to be on my podcast because I was like, I mean, obviously, podcast, it's a conversation, but it's kind of one sided, right? And so I feel like you got to know me. And so I am so glad that you agreed to be on here so that I can get to know you a little bit more. So I've been asking this question to my guests recently. It's such a fun question. I feel like it gets to know you a little bit. When do you feel most beautiful?
I was not expecting this question. Wow. Wow. I've never thought about this. When do I feel the most beautiful?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in a new relationship. And I think it's whenever he just looks at me and we're just like no words are being exchanged and we're just looking at each other. I feel like the most beautiful girl in the world.
Yes. Like that makes me think of like the classic cartoons with the hard eyes, you know?
Yes.
Like they give you
Exactly.
those hard eyes and suddenly you're like, "Oh, okay. Yes." I love that. That's such a sweet answer because I think sometimes we do feel most beautiful when it's in the eyes of someone else. To see that someone values you and sees you as beautiful, like that's such a gift. So that's a really great answer. I love this question because every person I've asked has had a totally different answer. And so there's just like it's a very interesting insight into someone and kind of what they think about beauty and all of that. And most of the time, I don't think anyone's answered like, oh, when I have a face full of makeup on or when I'm wearing, some certain outfit. It's all been very spiritual or emotional or connection focused. And I think that's such an interesting thing to notice about the way that most of us see beauty.
Yeah, I never really thought about it because I was trying to think. I was like, when I look in the mirror, I was like, but no, that's not when I feel the most beautiful. It's like you feel the most beautiful when you're surrounded by the people who care about you and are
Mm-hmm.
looking at you and like admiring you and adoring you and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so sweet. I love that so much. That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of like relationships and all of these things, I know this is something that we talked about before that we wanted to dive into. I am huge on friendships. I love having conversations about friendships, all the like messiness that comes with it too. And something that you mentioned to me that has been like a pivotal point in your life and something that's changed who you are is a loss of a friendship that you had. And so I would love to hear you dive into that a little bit more and share a bit of your story.
Yeah, so this is actually a pretty fresh story. This is
Mm.
2022, I think. What year? No, 2023. So
Couple
yeah,
years
coming
then,
up on
yeah.
yeah, coming up on 2 years ago. It was springtime of 2023, and this was a friendship of 8 years. Knew each other since freshman year of college, and grew together. Like we went through similar experiences together, long distance relationships together, breakups together. One of my best friends and the only person I knew when I was moving to Charlotte, which is where I'm at now. And I considered him my best friend. Everyone knew. Like we were the two that would do everything together. Is like you would not see one without the other most of the time. And just all of a sudden we started to have a little bit of tiffs. Nothing
Mm.
that I felt was relationship ending, like friendship ending tiffs. Just you
Mm-hmm.
fight. You fight with people you care about.
Arguments.
That's,
Yeah.
you're humans. You're not going to agree on everything. And it was things like that. And all of a sudden, I just stopped getting invited to things by him.
Mm.
And I was picking up on it, but I was like, oh, like it's justifying, like, oh, I was busy, like this, it's fine. Like he didn't know I was busy, but like I was busy, or even if I wasn't busy, he was like, I was tired, and just creating these excuses. And it got to a point that after about a month, I confronted him about it. And we talked things out, and I thought we talked things out to be on the same page. We hugged it out in the parking lot outside of my apartment, and his birthday was coming up that weekend. And I already found out I wasn't invited to one of his birthday festivities. But he does whole weekend extravaganzas. So he told me, he was like, I'll let you know if we end up doing anything else. And I was like, great. I would be happy to celebrate you. And I never heard from him again.
Like
So
ever
it
again?
was ever again.
That was the
To
last
this,
conversation?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it took a lot for me to fully step away of what you like, I'm a type of person that I was raised of any birthdays, weddings, funerals, whatever it may be, any big moment in someone's life, every all the drama gets put on hold and you are there for that person.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
And yeah, and I apparently he didn't feel that way, and I deem that as unforgivable. I'm a person that is like I don't forgive. I've tried to work on it, but it's more of the forgiveness comes from I don't have a visceral reaction when you mention his name because it was a whole psychological trauma that came with that of this
Mm-hmm.
loss with no answer. And it was a very sudden, just abrupt, you're out of my life now that I wasn't expecting and I didn't see coming. So it turned into the spiral, and it turned into the spiral of how do I make friends as an adult, as someone who who moved to Charlotte with the idea that I'm going to have an immediate friend group. And I did for the first year that I lived here. And
Mm-hmm.
then from that point on, it was, wait a minute, I have to understand how to make friends, which is so funny because I help my clients with that. But being in it firsthand as an introvert, as someone that is now has all these fears and anxieties around friendships and losing people, it was very difficult to step back out into the world. It took me about 6 months to actually get my foot back out to try to make new friends. And the people that have come into my life since then are the most magnificent people in the world. And I look at friendships differently and I value friendships in a different way. I always valued them, but now they show up differently in my life. And it's so cliche is like it sucked that that happened and I would not want that to happen to anyone, but I'm so grateful that it brought me to the people that are in my life
Mm-hmm.
today.
Totally. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Friendship breakups, I think, are so tough. I also think that we don't give enough weight to them. There's so many people. I think it's such an experience that a lot of us, especially in our 20s to like 30s, there's lots of life changes and you're becoming a different person. Your priorities are shifting. Either you're getting in a serious relationship or you're stepping into your career, you're having kids or whatever. And like, or moving, like so many of my friends and stuff move across the States. And so like, there's like a lot of shifting of relationships. And so I see a lot of people that are losing friendships. Sometimes it's in this very dramatic, like kind of quick way, like yours is, like, which I feel like is very traumatizing, or it's just this like natural falling off of friendships where you just start to talk less. But that like your experience of being ghosted and all of that, I think that we don't give permission to mourn and grieve friendships the way we give permission to grieve romantic relationships, which doesn't make any sense to me at all because I think they carry such weight. Like your whole experience with that, and then like you even said, you even lost your group of friends as well because they're all interwoven and tied together. Like that's such a crazy experience.
Yeah. And I mean, so the time we're recording this episode is a week before my birthday. And the people invited to my birthday, there's only one person from that previous friend group that
Mm,
is invited and coming and who I still talk to on a fairly regular amount to this day. But it's still difficult knowing that she's very close to him still, but she's
mm,
also close with me. And it's like they say that if you're friends with everyone, you're friends with no one. But I this for this particular girl, or her name's Courtney. For Courtney, it's so not true. So
mm,
I think like when you hear that is like, yes, that is possible. I think like people who are friends with every single person, it
mm.
doesn't really have their own people, but she's so lovable and so loving that I know it's not true, and she is very good at being able to separate the drama that exists between two different friend groups that were once together.
Mm-hmm. That's a tricky spot to be into, that kind of in between. But that's also really cool that you still have a friend who was connected to that, who has still stayed with you. Yeah, I've had some friendship losses as an adult, and for me, I think that the hardest thing about it is, like, you said this before we started recording. You said when you have a romantic relationship, you still have your friends that have your back, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you share that, right? That's
Yeah,
exactly how
yeah,
I feel like when you lose a friendship though, it's kind of like everything's ripped out from under you.
everything. It
Hmm.
is so much more difficult to go through a best friendship breakup
Yeah.
than it is a romantic breakup. I've been through both. And
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like they were different, but
Hmm.
it's your friends have your back when you are going through a heartbreak with someone
Hmm.
that you once loved. But having to rebuild your sense of community and redefine it as well, because the community I thought I had built was not really my community. They were not my people. They were my therapist had to help me come to see this a lot of they were the people that it just looked flashy. It looked fun. It
Yeah.
was the social group. You were showing up to a bar with a group of people. I don't even like being at bars, but it was the facade that was
Hmm.
being put on of like, yeah, I have a social life. I'm hanging out with all these people. I'm doing all these things. And at the end of the day, I didn't have anyone checking in on me on the 6 months I fully disappeared. And
Mm.
I continued to have the thought of if I picked up everything and moved away, no one would know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that was
That's the worst feeling too, because then not only do you feel that betrayal and abandonment from your best friend, but you also feel that betrayal from other friends, and or maybe even it's more so like this insight into, oh, we weren't as close as I thought we were. I can't trust you the way I thought I could. I mean, I know when I left my religion and I left the church when I was younger, I had the same experience where I stopped going to church and I never heard from any of my friends from the church. And I thought I had so many friends. I had so many people that I hung out with all the time, this big group of friends, and I never heard from any of them. And that was this feeling of just like, holy shit, were they ever really my friends? And that's such a jarring kind of, it also made me realize what kind of friendships I want to hold and how connected I want to be with them. And so it shifted how I created friendships after that. So I want to hear from you. Like you said, you kind of had to learn how to create friends, and like it was a whole journey for you to get there. What was that like for you? And what were some of the things that you did?
Well, I'll say the things that I did that I would not recommend anyone do is I spent those that interim 6 months. It was probably like 4 to 6 months waiting for an
Mm,
invite from someone. Like I'd meet someone, give them exchange numbers, and then wait for an invite or wait for an invite from someone from the past friend group. But I gave other people the control over my social calendar instead
totally.
of me taking action. And my coach had to snap me out of it and be like, "What are you doing? You need to go create the life you want." And she
Hmm.
was right. So the first thing I did was really think about it. I was like, what do I enjoy? And I enjoy playing sports, so I started going to pick up sports every Sunday, which is actually how I met my boyfriend last year. So that was ironic, but I just put that together. So I started doing that every Sunday, and then I've ever since the start of the pandemic, I started reading self-help books, and I still love reading those types of books. It's my like morning with my coffee, kind of start my brain, get it going part of my day.
Hmm.
And I realized I wanted to start a self help book club. So
Oh,
I
fun.
posted in a Facebook group and it's like, I want to start this. Who wants to join? And I did that with the intention of I want to be surrounded by like minded people who are growth minded. That's what I'm looking for in friendships, who want to set goals, who want to do better for themselves. And it's also what I do with my clients, what I do in my work. So it was all pretty connected because that's how I live my life. It's
Mhm.
fully who I am, is that personal development side of things, which is
Mhm.
very important if you ever want to get anywhere and be successful in life.
Mhm.
So I started that and hosted the first book club. I think there were 6 of us that came, which funny enough, the book club still is in existence, and there's like a different 6 of us that are now in
Yeah.
it, except
Uh-huh.
for my one best friend who I met. We had some overlaps, but we officially met at that first book club. And then at the same time, we're part of the same speaking event. So we started to get closer. And again, I was giving that control up, that power
Mhm.
of they'll invite me if they want to see me. Like they want to hang out with me, but otherwise it's fine. Like it's no big deal. And it took the day of that speaking event. So timeline would be I started the book club August of 2023. The speaking event was November of 2023. And me and this girl were both in it together. And at the end, she saw that I had some of my personal training clients come to the event. And some of them are friends, some of them are also nutrition coaching clients. But I had people show up for me. And she had asked me was if my sense of community had changed because she knew that I had been dealing with some friend problems over the last couple of months and had been working to build up that my own community. And I told her, I was like, yeah, it was nice that they showed up. And I definitely see my community as something different. And it's not as age based. And it doesn't really, it only really matters like, are we there for one another? And do
Mhm.
you feel supported? Do you share things in common? And, but I would have loved if someone from my old friend group that I thought was still part of my friend group would have texted me, congratulations on your first big speaking event, or
Yeah.
let's go get dinner tonight to celebrate you. And so I was like, I don't have any plans tonight. And we're walking next to each other, and she goes, "Well, I don't have dinner plans tonight either." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Just dropping fat hints, and you're like,
And she's like, "Jess, do you want to go get dinner with me tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a great idea." And I think it was that dinner where we got to know each other a little better and share stories and talk about
Mhm.
our past and just build a connection is the start of what brought us so close to one another. And now she is my best friend, my ride or die, my twin flame. I would
Mhm.
be nowhere without her. She saved me. She fully saved me.
Oh, that's so good. I love that story. And I also feel like what you were talking about at the beginning is I so connect to that and so relate to that. This idea of like, well, if they want to hang out with me, they'll invite me. Oh, like and you said it so well, like you were putting it in control of others, like your social calendar, your, you know, friendship building, you were like putting it in the power of others. And there's this quote I really like that is what you desire is yours to create. And I bring that quote back often because to me, it feels like it's so empowering and it's exactly your situation. It's like when you were kind of letting other people create what you desired, it was like not really happening. But then when you decided, okay, I'm going to take some responsibility. I'm going to put myself out there. Then like you started to see what you wanted, but also how amazing to have someone in your life that can lovingly nudge you and be like, there's something you want here. Hey, like I don't have dinner plans tonight. You wanna like try to like initiate something here. I feel like that's the best. Like that's where the best friendships come from. Someone that's willing to be like prod at you a little bit and poke and point out something that maybe you hadn't noticed. You're like, man, I wish someone would go to dinner with me. And she's like, hello. That's so good.
Yeah. And it was like from there is like I started to gain more confidence in myself and my ability to make friends. I started to do a little bit more things. I met another
Mhm.
friend at Fun Club. I've met like friends through other people that I've met, and now is I feel good about where I'm at in my life within my community that it's like, okay,
Mhm.
this makes sense. Like these are my people. And I think
Mhm.
what was also very odd for my brain to grasp, and it's something that I communicate now to other 20 somethings, is this idea of friend groups.
Mhm.
And I think it's because all throughout growing up, we're put in different groups around people our own age. We're put in clubs and sports and
Mhm.
organizations. And classrooms. Like, you're constantly told psychologically on like a subconscious level, you need to be in a group. And
Mm-hmm.
from a survival standpoint, that makes sense because you travel in packs. But when you break it down, depending on the person, yes, groups are great. For me, I don't thrive in groups. I thrive in one on one interactions. And that was something I had to unlearn and then relearn, that it's okay to have different friends in different areas of your life that provide, show up for a different reason for you. I go to some friends for some things and other friends for other things. And honestly, my birthday dinner is going to be the first time they're all together in one space. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's a little weird, but it's fine
Mm-hmm.
because like, you guys are all important to me in different ways. And I want you with me to have dinner with me on my birthday.
Mm-hmm. That's so good you pointed that out because I think for me, I'm the same way. One-on-one relationships are so much more nurturing and fulfilling to me. Don't get me wrong, I love a group of people. Like I can have a good time. Throw me in a crowd, I'm gonna have a good time. But I don't receive that, that connection, that intimacy, and the sort of like refilling of the tank. If I'm in a group, that's gonna drain my tank. Versus if I'm one on one, that's going to fill my tank. And so I totally value that as well. And I think that before you even said all your friends are coming to your birthday dinner for the first time, I've done that too, where I've like thrown a party or something for like we threw one for my husband's birthday back in San Diego when we were living there. And I invited friends from like, one was a coworker, one I met at a book club, one I met doing this, and like none of them knew each other. But I'm like, this is kind of cool that I'm getting to like bring all these people from different places in my life into one spot. Like, so cool. And then my husband was inviting his friends from random places. And so we had this kind of ragtag group of people that didn't know each other. And it ended up being like the raddest experience. And so I think that's such an important thing to point out, that you don't have to like find this group and connect with everyone, because I think that puts so much pressure on you to, you're not always going to get along with all six people that are a part of a group. But like just saying, hey, you can meet one person, connect with them, and that's more than enough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a weird thing to grasp in your own mind, and that was something that I had to learn from the previous friend group, is that I wasn't really hanging out with most of them one on one. Like,
Yeah.
there were two people that I would hang out with one on one and no one else. And it just goes to show, like, no, they weren't actually your close group of friends. You weren't
Mm-hmm.
texting them separately outside of a group chat. You were only hanging out with them when it was a social group thing that was happening. And I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
very important thing to take a step back and be like, who do you want to contact, or who do you want to spend more time with? Who do you want to get to know better so that you can develop these strong relationships? And if you're constantly in a group, how do you take the group out of that picture without feeling like you're excluding people? And that's where you get like all the trauma of like, oh, I feel left out. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I think giant groups of friends is not as fulfilling for anybody, because you are not able to get to that deeper level of connections, of storytelling, of intimacy, even just with friendships, that you need to build those friendships and to make them stronger.
Yeah, 100%. You have to have those like quiet moments, those moments where, and like I know, like for me, the best friendships I have are the ones that have seen me cry, have seen me at my, most struggling point. And I just know I'm never going to call a group of 8 people and be like, oh my God, I'm having the hardest day ever. You know what I mean? I'm just not going to. Like, I don't want to talk to 8 people when I'm, laying in bed and having the worst day ever. I want to talk to one person and call them and have them be there. And so I feel like that's like you need those one-on-one relationships, and maybe you can have a group of friends, but there's always going to be the one-on-one relationship that you feel like closer with, that you feel more connected with. And you have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit, and like, because it's kind of intimidating, I think, to say, hey, do you want to meet for coffee, or do you want to meet one-on-one? Especially if you've always been a part of a group, that can be a little intimidating to branch off. And like you said, you might have to deal with drama. Luckily, like I've had instances where I've been like, hey, can we hang out one on one? And then someone else will be like, can I come? And I'm like, actually, no. I just want to do one on one hang out with this person. And it's nothing against you. I'd love to do a one on one with you, but like I just really value that. And so since I'm more clear on that, then it's easier for me to be clear with others. And so, but yeah, I think you have to be willing to put that arm out and stretch out a little bit more instead of staying in that kind of maybe comfort zone of a group.
Yeah, and I would even say when you go to start building these friendships too, it's like you have to keep at the top of your mind to reach out to them, to not even to
Mm-hmm.
make plans, just to check in
Hey.
on them, how they're doing, like how's your day going, like what's follow up with things that they mentioned because you're still in that beginning stage and you
Mm-hmm.
have to build on it to get to a point where you can call someone your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And where it's so foreign as you move through your 20s and 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s beyond that when you go to make this new friendship, it's kind of like you forget like how have I ever made friends in my entire life? How do
For
I have
real.
a conversation with someone brand new? Who am I even a human? Like, what's going on? How do I interact with someone else? I think you
Yeah.
just forget everything because you take for granted the relationships that have been there for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and there's gonna be the people you click with instantly for sure, and then there's gonna be the slower burn of it takes a little bit longer to get to know them. It takes a little bit more effort, but then
Mm-hmm.
you finally get to that place where it's like no time has passed at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're so right. I actually, some of my best friendships I have now were slow burns. Maybe at the beginning I'm like, oh, they're cool, but it's not like this instant like boom chemistry. It was more just like, yeah, I mean, I like them, cool. And then building that trust and showing up for each other and checking in, like you said, that's so key to because it's like a little plant, you know, it's like a little baby plant. If you're not watering it and making sure it's in the right soil and that you're, you know, making sure it's getting its sunlight and all that, like that little plant's not going to grow. And so it's like you gotta take extra care. Once it's big, once it has those like sturdy roots, you know, then you don't have to water it every single day. You don't have to make sure that it's like getting sunlight all the time. It's a little more sturdy. But that little baby plant, you got to be gentle with it. You got to make sure you're taking those moments, and that's the key. There is to then hopefully get those roots to be the sturdy roots that you want them to be. But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and you'll realize that as you develop new friendships or new relationships in your life is they're all there's reason season or lifetime is what people say, but I would even argue that even though you might not know if someone is a for lifer,
Hmm.
you're going to learn a lot of lessons along the way. I know for
Hmm.
me, it's been a lot of lessons on communication that I've had to learn. And it's also understanding that, like, some people are the worst communicators in the world, and that would be my ex best friend. And then there's people that provide this safe environment where you get to
Hmm.
fully hear each other out and express your feelings and feel heard and seen and validated, and then come to a solution so that you're not pissing each other off all the
Hmm.
time. And I'd say like that's what this my best friend now, like that's we are very good. We're very bad at communicating when things are bothering us. Like I'll become passive aggressive and then she turns avoidant. So then all of a sudden we're just not talking to each other until one of us is like, wait a minute. Things out and we'll have a really good conversation and even front the conversation with like this is not friendship ending conversations, we just things are bothering us and we need to talk it out. And
Hmm.
it's I still need to be constantly reminded of, hey, it's okay, like she can communicate, she's not going anywhere, you're safe,
Hmm.
because of what I experienced with my ex best friend, where I tried my best to communicate. I, to this day, feel I communicated to the best of my abilities. It was right after I read, I think, a book from Dale Carnegie called Listen, and it's on
Hmm.
effective communication. And I applied every single one of those tactics, and I was like, yes, I'm doing this. This is great. This is not a friendship ending conversation. I'm
Hmm.
letting him go first, everything. And it was a friendship ending conversation because he
Hmm.
decided to end it. And it's also going back to that control thing is, or even I would even say Mel Robbins' let them theory is like let them. He
Mm-hmm.
wanted to walk away. I'm going to let him do that. He has showed his true colors. I'm letting him do that. But also knowing and reminding myself that not everyone is going to do that to you. Not everyone is
Yeah.
just going to walk away when they're upset with you. People
Mm-hmm.
actually want to resolve things. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
tough lesson to know that you are safe and that your relationships are solid.
Totally. Yeah, and that's the thing though, is like love, friendships, relationships, all of that. The reason why they're so hard sometimes and scary is because there is always risk. There's always risk. You can't be in a relationship with someone without the risk that it could end, or you could be hurt by them, or you could hurt them, or just any of these things. Like you just can't love deeply unless you're willing to be hurt by that. And it's like such a scary thought sometimes to, you're like, yes, I'm safe, and also like I'm not fully in control of everything either. It's like I am understanding that like, I don't know if you've read any Jay Shetty books.
No, but I listen to him.
Okay, so his first book, he talks about attachment, right? And so in Buddhism there's attachment, and I always kind of thought about it like, before I read the book, okay, if you have attachment, to remove attachment is to like not love anymore, right? But really, what how he described it was such a simple way, and I'm not going to say it as well as he did, but essentially he was saying that like, what you're saying is it's not forever. It's not forever. And so what you can allow is, hopefully there's some peace that comes with that, is like, it's I can't hold on to something and make it be mine forever. Because whether it ends because it's, if it's a relationship, whether it ends because there's some conflict, or it ends because someone dies, as sad as that is to say, right? But like, there will always be an end to that. And so hopefully you can have some ease with that, is to say, okay, like, then I want to value and appreciate what I have. I want to nurture and feed into this, and I want to be the best version of myself and be the most vulnerable I can be, knowing that there's risk, but knowing that like that's worth it. It's worth it, right? It's worth it to risk the pain and things that come with it, because love and all the connection that comes with that is like one of the greatest gifts that we can have on this earth, I think.
Yeah, and you can't let yourself live in fear. I mean,
Mm-mm.
everything that you do comes with a risk or a reward, and or a
Mm-hmm.
reward. It can be both. And putting yourself out there, yes, there's risk, but it's also reminding yourself to be in the present and enjoy
Mm-hmm.
what you have right now,
Mm-hmm.
because like I'm in beginning stages of a relationship and I have that fear that runs through my head of like, but what if it ends? And it's like I have to cut my thoughts off and be like, no. It's you're
Mm-hmm.
happy right now. Let yourself be happy. Let
Yeah.
yourself enjoy this new beginnings of something special, of something that you've been wanting for so long and that you finally got. It's
Mm-hmm.
like breathe. Be there. Be here in this moment right now. Stop worrying about all the what ifs that could happen because you're going to drive yourself mad doing so.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. I mean, my husband and I always say, I choose to marry you today. And for some, that might be kind of like a scary thought, is like, oh, I'm not saying I choose to marry you forever. I'm just saying I choose to marry you today. And he's saying I choose to marry you today. And for some reason, that creates some ease with me, this like continue renewal and commitment to each other. It's like, today he's here not because he committed 5 years ago that he's going to stay with me forever, but because today he woke up and decided that he wants to be with me and he's committed. And so there's this like continual renewal and recommitment to each other that feels so good and so connected, where it's like we're not placing any obligation on each other. We're choosing to be here, right? And so I know that because he's here now, he wants to be here, and I'm here now because I want to be here, right? And so that's kind of a piece in that too, is like, when I show up for my friendships as well, is like, I want them to always know that, if I'm spending time with them, or I'm showing up for them when they're having a hard day or something, that like, I'm not doing it because I said I'm your friend and so now I'm lifelong committed to always be a certain way. I'm here because I want to be here. because I want to love you where you're at right now, because I want to spend this afternoon with you. And so I really value that too, when like someone says no to me, or they say I can't help you out with this thing right now because I'm struggling with my emotions, or I can't do this because of that. To me, I'm like, that's a gift, because I think they're reminding me that their no is valuable, but that means their yes is their yes. Like it's a hell yes. I kind of went on a tangent there, but yeah, essentially just choosing every day, so it feels really real and genuine.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's you choose everything in your life. It's like
Yeah.
who you choose to hang out with is going to reflect on other decisions you're making in your life and what you're doing in your free time and how you're
Hmm.
feeling about yourself.
Yeah, totally. Okay, speaking of choice, this was something else we wanted to get into in our conversation today. Is you had like a big career shift in your 20s, which is why you have your whole podcast, How to 20 Something, because there's lots of transition and there's all these things that happen in this time. And so I would love to hear you dive into that a little bit more. Tell me like what that experience was like for you.
All right. Well, on the topic of choice, it was choosing to leave the corporate world to
Mm,
pursue my life coaching business. I'm an adulting coach. And I think, like, to the topic of this podcast, like being brave, I think you and I talked about this when you were a guest on mine, is I didn't feel brave when I was making that decision. But
mhm.
looking back, I think that was one of the bravest things I could have done because I left on my 25th birthday, my corporate job, my nine to
Wow.
five, stable income, handed in the keys on my 25th birthday, and then moved to Charlotte, moved to U-Haul to Charlotte the next day. And was
Wow.
like, this is it. This is my new adventure. But it didn't just all of a sudden happen on a
Mm,
whim. There was a lot of things that happened to me. I know like there's the for me and there's the to. This happened to me that were not my choice, and it was losing my job day
mhm.
one into working from home of the pandemic. I was one of the last ones to work from home, and then the first one to not have a job anymore. So I got to work from my laptop. I was so excited for one full day, and then it was
That's
taken out from
crazy.
under me. Yeah. And it's not like I wasn't laid off, I wasn't fired. I was probably in a worse position where I was furloughed. And
Mm,
the way I like to describe furlough, it's kind of like a toxic ex that's like dangling, like hitting you up every now and then. That's like, hey, yeah, I want to be with you. I love you. Let's get back together. But
ugh, not right
next
now.
month.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
not right
worst.
now, but I'm still going to be here. You shouldn't do anything in the meantime because I'm
Yeah.
still here.
Don't date anyone else. Just wait
Yeah.
for me. Yeah, the worst.
So the actual definition of being furloughed is being without a job but still accruing seniority. So I
Mm,
still had my job, I still had my position, my resume showed no gaps, but I wasn't getting a paycheck and I wasn't logging on for work. So I was a different level of unemployed that had this level of hope of my job is still waiting for me when the world opens up again.
which,
And yeah. Which one, it started off as 1 month of, okay, you'll be furloughed for 1 month. That 1 month turned into another three. And then it ended up being 6 months total. When I received news that it would be at least 12 more weeks after that initial 1 month, I realized I cannot keep living this way. And the way I was living was having no routine in my life. I would like sleep, I'd watch TV, I'd work out on the top of my garage at my apartment, and then I'd go back inside, I'd shower, and I'd watch more TV, scroll on
mhm.
TikTok, go back to bed. Like that was it. There was nothing. I felt like a sitting duck. I had no options. And when I received the news of, hey, this isn't going anywhere just yet, you have another 3 months of this exact life, that's when I made that choice of no, I'm
Mhm.
going to do something with this time. And that's when I decided to become a personal trainer and start that certification. And the certification on average takes like 6 months, maybe up to 12. And I told myself, I was like, we're getting this done in 3 months. So my return to work date, I think was July 15th or something. And I was like, we are finishing this certification by July 15th, like taking
Oh
the
yeah.
exam and everything. And of course, Facebook listens to everything that you say. So as soon as I started the certification, I got an ad popped up of an outdoor fitness boot camp looking for trainers. And it's okay if you are in the process of becoming a trainer to start working with them. So I, funny enough, had did a pop-up workout with this exact company in January of that year.
Oh,
So I
crazy.
knew them. Yeah, because the world works out. Everything works out the way it's supposed
Yeah.
to. But I reached out to them and was like, hey, I just started my certification. I would love to do this because what else am I doing with my time? You're telling me I get to be
Hmm.
outside and somewhat
Moving your
social, 6 feet
body.
apart. Yeah,
Yeah.
moving my body, being creative because you're writing the workouts and just like having a good time. I was like, say less. I'm gonna go do this.
Hmm.
So I started getting trained by them and I fell in love. And I loved the feeling of people coming to my class and leaving feeling better than when they first came. And
Hmm.
I was addicted. It was like a high for me. To the point where one of the trainers was stepping down because it was franchises and his location was opening up, that they're like, you can take his location, you'll have the clients, you just have to pay for some startup stuff and you'll be good to go. And I was like, yes, this is it. This is what I'm doing. Screw corporate America. I'm going to be a personal trainer. Even though I want to backtrack, say, I decided to be a personal trainer just because I wanted to learn how to work out better. I
Hmm.
had no intention of really work helping other people until I started to, it just fell into my lap and I started and I loved it. And I still do it today. And I told my mom, I was like, I have this opportunity. I'm going to go do it. This point in time, where it's probably August, late August of 2020. So it's been about 5 months or so of me being unemployed. And my mom was like, no, you need to go look into getting a real job because your company's never calling you back, clearly. And this is not a good idea. So I was devastated, but listened and found a new job. And I went into that job with the mission to get out to be a personal trainer. That was the goal for me. So that was the choice I was making. It was the okay, I got the job again. How do I get out? How do I make my escape plan? And the following, oh, how long was it? 2020 to March of 2022. So I think a year, it was only a year and a half. Feels like it was so long. Was me just planning it out. And that's my mom then came back in, was like, oh, what about coaching? Like, go be a health coach or nutrition coach because that pairs with fitness. And I was like, yes, okay, this is a great idea. So mom came back in and was like, I support this. You're making a plan and not just creating a decision on a whim. And I I made the plan from I started my coaching certification in April of 2021 and knew that when my lease was up the following March, I was going to move out of Orlando and I was going to leave the 9 to 5 life behind and pursue my own thing. And the health and nutrition coaching turned into more of life coaching side. Of course, I do all of it. I consider myself one stop shop. And then I personal train at a gym that's local to my area. So it was
Oh, yeah.
a lot of decisions had to be made, a lot of choices had to be made throughout this process. And I think the biggest part is stick with it. Like, don't fall back because other people have the doubts when you know in your gut and in your soul, in your heart, that this is for you and you're going to make it work no matter what.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. I think it's also, I love that your mom was like, got you, girl. She was like, listen, I got your back. Take a risk, sure, but like have a plan at least.
She
She's
didn't
like,
even say that, but like looking back, I could see it of like, okay. She even said she's like, yeah, I was terrified because yeah, I was 23, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm done with the corporate world, and she was like, no, no, you're
no.
not.
She's like, I don't want to be paying your bills in 6 months, please.
Yes, but once I had a plan and it was like, hey, I'm gonna do this, and I know and I believe in myself. Came around and was like, I think my mom and my sister were both like, if anyone could do it, it's Jess. I'm
Hell
very
yeah.
stubborn in that way, but I was like, I'm gonna make it happen.
Yeah, totally. That honestly, your story too happened so quickly. You for a lot of people that do coaching or start their own business, it's like a very slow process to even first do it. And then it's a process to like then actually leave their job and do it full time. And it's like, so yeah, I love that you were like, oh, it was a year and a half. Well, it seemed a lot longer than that. I'm like, a year and a half is actually such a short amount of time to make a plan, set it in stone, and then not only that, but like you were like, I'm gonna make it happen by this day. So I'm quitting my job no matter what. And so that, I'm sure that put a fire under your butt to really make shit happen so you could just immediately jump into it. And I think that's so inspiring because so much of being an entrepreneur, I think, is the decision and sticking with it, like you said, of just being like, I'm gonna do it. I don't care what people say. I don't care if this feels freaking impossible right now. I just started my coaching certification, but in a year I'm quitting my job and I'm gonna be doing this full time. Like, that's badass.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's helped that I had a savings goal and I was very good with my money leading up to
Mm-hmm.
this point too. That even like through unemployment is like I was getting pandemic unemployment assistance and things. So I
Mm-hmm.
was still able to not fully deplete my savings during that time and then be really frugal leading up to that of like I have a goal and I have to have this amount of money sitting in my bank account in order for me to feel good about leaving my job, knowing that the first couple years is a little rough. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
still am like, am I successful yet? And I'm like hitting my financial goals. And I'm like, I don't know. Like sometimes I really think back and it's like I was actually my book club. The most recent book we were reading was the Happiness Project,
Mm.
and in it there was a quote that I had bookmarked when we went to go talk about it over the weekend, and it was that someone had commented of sometimes I wish my brain would be like everyone else's, where I'm fine with the 9 to 5 life and the stability and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm an artist and this is what brings me life. And I think like battle with those same thoughts of the it would be easier if I
Yeah.
enjoyed working under someone else, but it's not who I am. And part of what helped that decision to execute is any time that I subbed in with the group coaching and then would have to go to my 9 to 5 either the next day or right after, depending if I was subbing the morning or the evening, I would feel soul sucking to be
Mm-hmm.
sitting at my desk. Anytime there was a lull in the day, I would always think I could be doing something that is actually helping people
Mm-hmm.
versus I was an interior designer versus designing houses for the wealthy. Like it would
Mm-hmm.
there was just no sense of fulfillment for me with all the hours I was spending there compared to the insane amount of fulfillment I got from the 1 hour class I was coaching.
Mm. Yeah. I think I feel the same way. I've thought about that a lot. Like, if I could just get a regular job and, like, it would be so nice to have a regular paycheck. My God.
And PTO
Yes,
and
PTO,
benefits.
all those insurance, yeah, everything covered. Like, that sounds really nice sometimes. And then I remember how much I value my freedom and I love what I do. Like I used to dread Mondays. Like Mondays were just and I never worked a traditional corporate job. I kind of hopped around and did a bunch of things. But there were a lot of jobs I had where I would dread going to work. It was just this, like you said, this soul sucking feeling and being like, okay, you can do it, it's fine. And I drank so much caffeine at the time. I was always just like drinking caffeine to like give myself motivation to actually do shit. And now I am psyched to wake up and go to work, like do my work on Mondays. Like I am literally thinking this is the coolest thing ever that I get to do this. And I'm not saying I don't have moments where I'm overwhelmed or where I'm stressed out or where I work 14-hour days. Like there's still those days and stuff, but I still like think it's so much it's so worth it for me because overall I feel so much joy for what I get to do and the freedom that comes with it. And so it's worth it. But there are those times where I'm like, should I just get a job?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a 5:30 a.m. personal training client that I see twice a week and it requires me to wake up at like 4:45 and even then I am happy to wake up at that time and go personal train. Am I
Hmm.
tired by like 3 p.m. and need a nap? Yes, absolutely. But I love it and my clients give me energy. It's like we're having a great time, we're having good
Hmm.
conversations. Everyone is so different that like I get to be a little different depending on who I'm talking to and interacting with. But It is. It's having those moments of, I'm going to mention another book. I usually don't mention a ton of books.
I love,
I don't
yeah,
know.
we mentioned a lot of books in this episode.
I know. The Gap and the Gain taught me to, it taught me two things. So, well, it taught me a lot, but two things that I use to this day. And one of them is I am being successful when. And
Mm,
for me, it's I'm being successful when I'm working out at 10 a.m.
mm,
Because when I had a 9 to 5, I had to work out before work.
yep.
And I was like, I can't wait for the day where I don't have to do that. And so it's like I'll train all my clients in the mornings and then I'll stay after and I'll work out myself. And it's like that's me being successful is getting to work out in the middle of the day. And then the
Mm,
other part is I start my day by asking myself, what are the 3 wins I'm after for that day? And I'll just go through. It's like knowing what I have to do this day and then thinking about what I hope to happen, as well as like those are my wins that I'm searching for. And when they happen, I'm like, oh, a win. I got
yes.
one.
That's so good. I love that idea. I want to, what's the book called? The Art of Gain? Or
The Gap and the Gain.
The Gap in the Gain. Wow, The Art of Gain. I'm a little off with that one. That sounds awesome. I love the idea of the wins every single day. I love to celebrate. So anytime I can like create some situation where I can celebrate, it's like even if every time I have host an event, I'm like next day I always put something in my calendar to celebrate. I did the event. And so I love that idea of like even every day, little celebration, like even if it's just like, hell yes, you got your win. Like I think that motivates me so much to keep going and keep getting those wins. I definitely want to read that book. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah, so cool. This has been such a cool conversation with you. I feel like we've dove into so many different things and I feel inspired by you. Also, I want to read literally all the books that you recommended in this episode. I should join your book club. Let's talk afterwards. I want to join your book club. Is it virtual?
It's not, but
Oh,
we can
shit.
FaceTime you in.
Oh, Jess, why you gotta do that to me? Yeah, okay, honestly, when I lived in the States, my book club was in person too, and it was way better. But, you gotta do what you gotta do when you live across the country, live across the
Yeah.
world. But yeah, this has been so cool getting to know you. I feel like we've gotten to dive into so many things. But do you mind if I kind of start wrapping up our conversation with our rapid fire questions?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. All right, first question I have for you is if you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
So my go-to always, since I was a little girl, was to be able to fly.
Of course.
I always was envious of birds. I just like they
Mm-hmm.
just get to see the world from up above, and so yeah, that's mine for no other reason other than just to see things.
Yeah, the freedom that comes with that. Okay, I'm curious, how do you fly? Like, would you have wings? Would it be Superman style? What does it look like?
I I think it'd be more Superman style. Like when I envision it, it's my body,
Just
and
yeah.
we're just soaring. I'm not flapping or anything. It's just I'm just gliding through the air.
Yeah, you're just like like going through it. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, next question for you is what is a go-to comfort meal for you?
Hmm. I so I'm not a big foodie,
Oh,
and I don't.
really?
Yeah, I feel like when I'm down, I'm not just like, oh, this would make me feel good. Or even like
Mm,
I feel like if I'm celebrating or if it's an occasion, I'll go for steak.
mm-hmm,
But if I think of comfort food, I my first thought goes to pasta. But no
mm-hmm.
matter what, I'm someone that I could eat the same thing for the whole every day for the whole rest of my life and be fine. Like I
That's
just
just
don't
like my
like being
husband.
hungry.
Yeah.
I don't like the feeling of hunger, but I'm also not like I want to try all the foods. I'm just like I'm fine with what works. This is fine.
That's so funny. My husband's like that too. He could eat the same breakfast and lunch and dinner every day, and he would be totally fine with it. And me, I'm like, I want something new. Every time we go to a restaurant, I always order something new. I never order the same thing. And like half the time it sucks. But I can't not order something new. I have to. Like there's like something innate me that's like if I order the same thing, I'm like missing out on the potential of finding some amazing new dish. So I'm always like trying the new thing. And he's the person finds one thing he likes at a restaurant, gets the exact same thing every time he goes. I'm like, to each their own.
I feel like this is a dynamic that has to happen for a
Yeah.
relationship to work. Like, you need the person that does not care about food and the person who is the foodie. It's like the pickle theory of it. Only one of you can like pickles.
Honestly, it works for me because I also love cooking and he doesn't. Well, he can cook, he just doesn't like cooking. And so basically I can cook whatever I want and he doesn't care, he'll eat it. Because he literally doesn't care what's set in front of him on his plate and he's always gonna be like, wow, this is amazing, babe. And so I can just make whatever I want and experiment and like have fails where I'm like, this turned out not as good as I want it to, and he's like, still tastes great to me. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, perfect. I love that.
Yeah.
Can cook anything. Yeah, garbage disposal. So yeah, you're right. I think it works. It's a good dynamic for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, next question for you is if you could recommend 3 books, movies, or podcasts, what would you recommend?
I've already given a lot of books, but I
That's
have
true.
one more. The first book my book club read is probably my favorite book to this day, and it's called The Mountain Is You.
Okay.
So that is and it's all about self-sabotaging. I mean, it's in the title. Like, you are your own mountain. You're creating all your own battles. But it was one of the few books that really, I felt really called me out, but in a gentle, nurturing way that allowed me to see things differently, what I was doing and how I was showing up in my life. So, The Mountain Is You. I have no idea who the author is. I'm so sorry.
I'll find
I'm
it.
really bad at remembering authors, but I got the titles. As for podcasts, right now I've been kind of obsessed with Diary of a CEO.
Okay.
That one's
Yeah, I've heard that.
good. And then I'll plug in my own podcast, How to 20 Something. It's also a
Yes.
pretty good one. My mom
It,
is my number one fan.
hell yeah. It sounds like your mom's your number one fan no matter what you do, which is freaking
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yes, yes. I love her.
Yes, definitely recommend the podcast. And I have an episode on there, or I'm going to have an episode on there. Probably by the time this episode's out, I will. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely go check out that podcast. That was such a fun conversation. Yeah, cool. Okay, one more question for you. Why do you think it's important to be brave?
I think it's important to be brave because when you are being brave, you're living by your own rules and you're living through your own eyes and how you want to see the world. So it's more of it is an authentic way to live, is when you are brave, you are embracing your authenticity and believing in yourself.
Totally. That's powerful. I love that. Awesome. Well, this has been so fun, Jess. Again, I just love talking to you. It was a great time. I wish that we lived closer. We gotta make something happen.
Yeah, for sure. I hate when that happens. It's like I'll have a really good interactions with podcast guests, and whether they're on mine or I'm on theirs, it's just like,
Yeah.
why don't we live closer?
What the heck? What the heck? Why is the world so big?
Yeah. I guess I'll have to go travel.
Yes, of course. Come to Peru. I think I literally tell every guest that I like vibe with, I'm like, come to Peru, come hang out with me. And all of a sudden, no one has yet. But Jess, maybe you'll be the first one.
Not this year. I got a lot of weddings to travel for this year,
Oh,
but
I feel ya.
if you're still there next year,
I will be.
I
I
will
will
come
be.
visit.
Okay, sounds good. Awesome. Well, if anyone wants to connect with you or if there's anything you'd like to share, how can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at coach.jessdiamond. I also have a website, jessdiamondcoaching.com, and my podcast if you just want to listen to me and not actually connect with me, but I do love connections, so please reach out to me. You can just listen to How to 20 Something. You spell out the number 20 on any podcasting platform. So those are probably the best ways. I'm the most active on Instagram. You send me a DM or an email. My email is like everywhere on every single platform possible. So yeah, connect. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any story that's similar to mine or any questions about my story, please reach out. Don't be a stranger.
Yeah, I love that. So good. Awesome. Again, thank you, Jess, and so much love to you and everything you're doing in this world. Thank you so much for listening and watching this episode of the Brave Bitches podcast. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, share, review, all that good stuff. Also follow me on Instagram at Hannah Soul Marie or at Brave Bitches Without the I for some behind the scenes look and clips from the episode. Again, thank you for listening and I'll see you next time.